Hi, I'm Chris Blackburn.
Hi, I'm Rob Hawkes.
And this is Training Tuesday, 30 minutes every week of complimentary practical sales training. Today we're going to be covering building rapport socially, explaining the difference between professional and social rapport building. Can they be done together is another question that we're going to be answering as we run through this, on when to use it, how to use it. So what do you think, Rob? Let's get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's crack on. So essentially over the last few weeks, like we said, we've been doing the professional rapport building, which was the 6 stages, BBETS, BBETTS. I'm not going to go through them because we've covered them in great detail, but we're talking about social rapport building. Now, we'll cover the acronym in a second, but I guess we've got to be really mindful of where are we using this? Where are we looking at being able to actually maximize the social rapport building? For some people, they find it quite easy and natural. For others, they maybe don't. So we're going to hopefully try and look at what, if you do find it uncomfortable, some really easy steps to follow to make it feel a little bit more comfortable. And for those of you who are already comfortable in that, maybe a couple of things that might make you think a little bit differently about your approach. And it's kind of also just being aware that you should always be building value in, remember, we have the 300% rule of value, the product and the company. Just making sure that we've kind of always got our sales goggles on. Like, don't miss an opportunity in a social setting, not to try and sell somebody. There's nothing worse than being at a barbecue and some bloke's trying to sell you, something that you don't want. But it doesn't have to be a bloke, could be a woman. Yeah, you want to enjoy your Sunday afternoon with your mates, but it is also the little bit of value that you can add. You might just learn a little bit or share a little bit or get something or give something that could be beneficial for the end user. So it's just about being aware of your surroundings and making sure that, we are always building value on ourselves. We're building those relationships so that maybe later on something could come of it, but not having a preconceived idea of I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that.
For sure. And we may even have, just to put some context behind that today, a guy, Adam, who I've been speaking with, he may be watching this as well, 19 years of age in Melbourne, just starting a new company as well. Decided just to move forward with the 14-day challenge that starts on Monday today. The big thing that he sort of appreciated with myself over the last week or two is that I haven't rammed a product down his throat. And we mean that obviously in the nicest way. It's because he's got to know myself personally and professionally, and he just doesn't see me as that salesperson that's putting him into any product that sounds great. So we've truly listened to the needs. So hopefully people can sort of relate to that as well. That it's what I shared with Adam today. People, as much as we buy products, it sounds crazy, but we don't. We buy the people and we buy the company that sells the product. So it's really connecting with the individual. So hopefully as we run through this today, there may be a few quick, nuggets of gold in there on how you can become more personable with the people that you're speaking to as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. You want to be mindful of what you're saying and how you're saying it and what you're doing and who you're doing it with. And so, yeah, I think the relationships that we're building with people come from the experiences that we share. And that's also based around, like what I always say, my favorite tool of reciprocity, by sharing a little bit about yourself before you maybe dive deeper into somebody else's, sort of experiences. But so we, as always, we have an acronym that we like to use. Now, this is something that a lot of people would have already have seen potentially. It's not something new. And the acronym is a way of obviously just remembering the, if you're stuck. So the acronym that we're going to be covering today is FORD. Some people would have known it as FORM, but FORD. So FORD. So just jot that down, and we're going to unpack very briefly. For those of you in the academy, you have the ability to be able to jump on and go into this in a bit of detail. But we're going to just cover really quickly a bit of an overview on FORD. And just make sure that we unpack it, maybe give a couple of examples for this. So yeah, FORD, write it down, and we'll start we'll start working our way through the acronym. So Chris, you want to offer your thoughts around the first one?
Absolutely. So the F stands for family. So family. So obviously be very delicate in this situation. I feel like what Rob's already covered is a key point in this time. I feel like timing for this one is key to everything. As Rob said, with reciprocity, don't, have kids for the sake of having kids as an example, actually be able to share that story with the customer. So as always, with any sale, it's giving something to take, and then obviously being, too intrusive can sort of raise sales defenses, as you will, as well. So the first one is F for family. This is where we covered it a few weeks ago, Rob. I guess covering into that is selling through stories. I feel like when you're building rapport against the family or taking somebody on a journey, it's selling through a story and through a particular process. Obviously, we don't have time to run into a million and one things. One journey that I can take people on is sort of what we call bio bouncing. So if people want to take notes, to bio bounce, what that actually means is taking people back, years. For me, I take people back around 3 years. I always say, if you'd have met me 3 years ago, I was a completely different human. But one thing that I found with my mentoring with Jack and ISR for 18 months was going through that journey of personal and professional development. Now, long story short, I'm very fortunate to be sponsored in the country, and now I've got some real exciting progression with the business as well. So what I've done there is take people on a 3-year journey very, very quick and say that if you met me 3 years ago, I would have been a completely different human. But obviously today, the things that we're achieving is X, Y, and Z. So you sort of can paint the picture relatively quick. So if you're looking to build rapport family-based, I'd sort of take people back to your upbringing or particular milestones and stuff like that, if that sort of makes sense.
Yeah, and I guess we'll maybe do this as a structure for the session. Is I would look at it. Okay, so we're going to do. Chris, we're going to talk about the business side of things or how to do that. Let's talk about in a social setting. So you can have your go-to if you are in a social setting and you do not know what to talk about. Then choose family, because even though it might be a bit of a touchy subject for some people, and we understand that, you don't need to dig too deep to it, but asking them, do you and your family live locally? Like where did you grow up? Like do you have any siblings? These are quite easy questions to open up. Now, somebody might not necessarily share the intricacies of that, but we might get yes. Okay, great. And, do they live locally? So you're not stuck with nothing to say. If you're in a situation where maybe you're at a wedding or you find yourself at a work barbecue, you don't know anyone, or you've just joined an organization and you're sat in the breakout area with somebody, and it's like, so you actually say, well, like Chris said, I've just moved here and I don't really know anyone, but my mum and dad live in X, Y, and Z, or I've got these family members that do this. So most people will be able to resonate with that, and you don't have to share too much details, but just have it as something to talk about if you find yourself in. So that's why this acronym is really good, because you can be like, right, well, I'm at least going to chat about my family. I'm married. Have you got a partner? Like Chris said, but maybe not in necessarily a sharing a story about you in Chris's example, maybe just as an example to have a topic to talk about. So that's how I would, if you're in that social setting, what I would do, I would just ask a couple of questions, really surface level around their family. Who are they? What do they do? And they're actually interlinked, the questions there, but you can just sort of open up a subject, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously you build that in, as Rob's saying, this process that we follow is very much around personal and professional development. So as Rob said there, he'll use that at barbecues, where for me, myself, I wouldn't not use that at a barbecue, but I feel that building rapport socially in a sort of B2B, B2C sales role is so powerful for people to buy into you. So there's many ways you can spin this off.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, moving on, we'll move to O. So O stands for occupation. So obviously in the business sense, they probably already know what you do. So I'm going to focus on the social sort of setting, and then Chris will maybe dive into the B2B side of things. But I think obviously being mindful that not everybody enjoys what they do, so we have to be careful with this, and kind of understanding. This almost comes into elevator pitch, like asking them what do you do, and kind of understanding that maybe the individual that you're talking to might never benefit from what you do, but they may know someone who does. All of our key networkers are BNI individuals and those who love a networking environment. If you are in a situation socially, asking somebody what do they do, and then you can go and use your other rapport building questions like, well, do you like what you do? They might say, oh, I'm an arborist, or I'm a doctor. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, what are you the doctor of? What do you enjoy what you do? How long have you been doing it? Yeah. So you can actually have 4 or 5 questions just from a conversational sense. If you're waiting at a doctor's surgery, or you're at a bus stop or in Coles, you can. And if you're like me and strike up a conversation with somebody, you can actually ask them those questions. Now, again, people might be a bit guarded. They might be like, well, why are you asking me these questions? But again, in a social setting, you can find out a little bit of information about them to, just sort of move the conversation along. But if they do enjoy moaning about their job, then maybe you don't want to get too caught up in it. In a social setting, in those work functions or whatnot, obviously we already know what they do, but you might want to ask, what do their partners do? What do their families do for a living? So you've always got that go-to opportunity to think occupation. Okay, what can I ask around their occupation, and how can I move this conversation along? So that's what I would do in the social setting. But Chris, if you want to focus on the sort of the professional side of the social rapport,
Just on that, mate, I guess your opinion on building rapport with somebody's occupation, that could then lead into family, like you said. If you're randomly stopping people in Coles and asking what they do for a living, I'm sure that can open up other doors, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying I'm in the toilet roll section. I'm like, hey, mate, what do you do? How many are you buying? Geez, are you all right? Yeah, no, I wouldn't necessarily do that. But yeah, I'm joking, of course. But no, like if I'm, if you get eye contact with somebody, and you kind of like, all right, what are you up to? Like, I actually find that people are quite open to it. If you're at the bank or the post office, you could stand there on your phone looking at Facebook, or you could strike up a conversation with the person in front or behind or to the side, and see where it goes. Like, I find like doing that with the people that, I go to the petrol station and I kind of know everybody by name, and and I didn't do this to get something, but by doing that, when I went on Easter and I took my daughter, we always go to the 7-Eleven for petrol, get a coffee, whatever. They gave April an Easter egg, because she was like, oh, hi, April, and how are you? Because they knew her, they actually, they did something really nice. And that's because I've been, I'm not just a customer, I'm somebody that I've initiated the conversation to. I know about them and where they're from and what they're doing. They know about me. And we now have a sort of semi, loose relation, like not loose, but semi, you know what I'm saying. Some form of relationship with a complete stranger that's resulted in my daughter getting an Easter egg for free. So, you never know where it could lead. You might generate a lead for your business because you've been bold to step out. And maybe as a challenge to everybody watching this, try it. Try striking up a conversation with a complete stranger between now and next week, and let us know how you went. See where it goes. You never know.
Let us know which Easter egg you win.
Absolutely. If you win an Easter egg in the middle of winter, then I'll be really impressed.
That's it. And I guess from a business sense, real quick, because obviously only got 11 minutes remaining as well. I think occupational for myself, we talk about the ladder on how it can gather intelligence. This for me is one of the most powerful parts of building rapport socially, is when you're finding out not just what people do, but more importantly, what their day-to-day looks like in their occupation. From ourselves, often an online training program, it's good to know how many hours a day you work, how do you travel, how do you commute, do you listen to podcasts, do you, in your job, do you have team training within the business? So really finding out particular intelligence gathering information. What that means is, obviously, if you're listening, there's going to be an abundance of buying signals in there. As we always say, don't jump straight onto them, hold them, keep the intelligence gathering. And then when you come to promote a product and service, if you can help that customer, obviously, for us, if we know somebody is commuting 15 minutes a day, we know our academy is recommended for 15 minutes a day worth of use. That can be good intelligence when I come to present the product and say, so imagine this, when obviously you're traveling to work, I know you've got 15 minutes at your disposal, turning the car into a library. The videos are on average about 5 minutes long. So what you're able to do there is sort of self-educate, get the information. What time do you normally travel to work? Okay, 8 till 8:15, perfect. And would you see yourself listening to videos and content and things like that prior to your work? Okay, awesome. So you can start really utilizing, if that sort of makes sense, hopefully it wasn't too quick, utilizing the intelligence you gather around their occupation to be able to present, paint pictures, and do everything that you can do to ethically influence the customer to utilize your service.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the intelligence that you can gather off of, off of conversational, rapport building is key. All those things that you mentioned there are key information for us. So you would know kind of what information will help you with your, whether you're watching this or listening back, like what is your service? What is your product? What are you offering? And what information do you would help you in your presentation? But bearing in mind as well that when you're socially rapport building, it's about just conversational. It's not an interrogation, as we always say. It's just very reciprocity questions, give to take, share a little bit. Your commute, your journey, and then ask what theirs is. How long you've worked somewhere, and I've worked here for 5 years. What about you? And just it definitely will break down those limiting beliefs or those barriers that people will have, that you're just asking them for intelligence, and actually relate and share a little bit about a story around what you've maybe just gathered, and that'll help. So let's move on, Chris, because we're running out of time here. So again, for those of you in the academy, you can jump on and have a look through. So we are on the pirate.
Couldn't help yourself, could you?
No, I couldn't. Yeah, no. I'll do a separate comedy podcast now. Of course, I won't. R stands for recreation. So we've had occupation, and then we've got recreation. So recreation is obviously what we do outside. Chris, do you want to elaborate on this for us?
Yeah, for sure. So obviously finding out, what people do in their spare time, get my words out as well, just enables that relate part for me. I think if you find out what people do on their weekends, what they do spending their time, you can then, from a business perspective, again, sort of communicate into that need. If somebody's looking to, for example, a question of what makes you happy, that is, again, a very open-ended question. Somebody could say, I love going out in the water and I love jumping on the jet ski. That's one of the big goals that I've got for this year. Okay, awesome. Then I've got the intelligence that I can start sort of selling into that particular need. So finding out what people do just means that they can connect with you, again, socially, as we're covering today. But once you find out what people enjoy to do, they'll create a good bond with you.
Yeah. Also, I mean, you can relate to it and then reference. I excuse me. I use a lot of analogies and narratives in my sales conversations. Also, when I'm coaching as well, when I'm getting a point across. Some of the guys in here, Mike, Jared, you probably attest to that. To understand a story is the way the brain works. So we've had a few sales today in the financial year, and a lot of that is based around the relationship that I've created, knowing what somebody does in their spare time. So actually by asking them, if you ask somebody what did they get up to on the weekend, for example, well, actually that's actually a useful piece of information. Oh yeah, well I watched a bit of the rugby. Oh yeah, no way. What team do you support? Or, I'm a Broncos fan. Oh, Broncos, I'm Titans, or whatever, and have a bit of a laugh and a joke around that. And actually then using that intelligence to know that I could use a sport analogy because I know the individual likes sport, or I could use an analogy around something that they're interested in. So actually by understanding when they're getting excited around a topic, or what are they doing it for? Would they love to go and watch them live? Or, you actually can learn a lot of important information that can help customize, your presentation to make that individual feel like they're $1 million. When, I remember when I came on board with ISR, I had a conversation with Ryan. We were talking about poker, and he said, oh, some of the guys, play poker nights, and is that something, would you like to play? And I kind of felt like I was involved. He was talking around Jack and the guys having poker nights, and I kind of felt like, yeah, like I can relate to that. And subconsciously, I'm like, okay, so they're interested in the same thing that I am, which means that I'm already relating to them. I already feel a deeper connection with them rather than, surface level. So perhaps ask yourself a question. Do your prospects know anything about you when you get off the phone with them? Like, what do they actually know? Do they know that you play video games, or watch Netflix, or go cycling or running, or, like with Chris, he's just got a dog. Do they know that? I mean, they could probably hear it if he's working from home. Yeah. We've already heard him a couple of times. But so just think about what do people know about you, and can you tap into the thing that makes them jump out of bed in the morning? And that why will probably have something to do with where they spend their time. For me, it's family, with my kids. Me and Jared will probably have a yarn for 10 minutes around. But I recommended him somebody to go and listen to. So, it helped. It was adding value. And that when you know about that, I can now add more value to his user experience. Maybe that's little parts of why he was able to, go and find the funds to reinvest halfway through a subscription, or, do you know what I mean? Like all of those little things will help in building that relationship. He's just put here, Rob, we both have the common interest of quality time with the kids, So, Mandy, she's got a common interest in chatting to random strangers. Yeah.
And I guess on that as well, like once we know what people enjoy to do, if your products and service can save people time, by knowing what they enjoy to do with their spare time, you're able to also sell into that need as well. So if you could assist them with X, Y, and Z and free up more time for them, what would you actually spend time doing? And then it starts to really get the customer thinking.
Do you mean like if their problem was to solve, so you could solve them more time and then advance them to what they're going to do?
Correct. Yeah. So that would be the last thing on recreation, and Rob's just popped that in there. So we've got 3 minutes, Rob. What is the D? D stands for?
The D stands for dreams.
Yeah.
So D dreams. So basically, I guess the reason why it ends up being in this order is also because this is the thing that maybe people struggle with the most, is tapping into the why, or the thing that motivates them the most. But it's powerful. We will think about the things that maybe are big, hairy, audacious goals, our BHAGs, the things, that we can really tap into. And I highlighted earlier about the why, and asking them what really makes somebody tick. I wouldn't dive straight into, you're at a barbecue and saying, hey mate, what are your dreams? I'll be like, mate, I'm just, I don't even know you. I came with so-and-so, so it's about later on in that conversation, you might get into that around something like that. For me, this is more about uncovering the why, the root cause as to what makes you jump out of bed in the morning.
Yeah. The only thing I'd add on to that is just around what Rob said around big, hairy, audacious goal. If you're finding a particular place to find out what people's dreams are, speak about goal setting. Like obviously goal setting is a very powerful thing. That's what people seek, is having that vision and the roadmap to achieve that. So if you're talking about your goals and sharing what you're wishing to achieve, and you ask that customer what would they like to achieve, that potentially could help build.
Absolutely. And I guess we'd like something to note or to write down is something that we talk about, which is tailoring a route to happiness. Understanding what truly makes somebody happy, and really really tapping into that. So what does I want to be happy. Great. Well, what does happy look like? And then actually, can your program, your service, your solution, how could it get to that point. You know, we're in a lucky position where our program can directly affect somebody's happiness. But can you relate your program, your service, your product to happiness? And what does that, you know, what does that look like? Whether you're selling, you know, beef jerky and biltong, or whether it's water, or whether it's marketing services, it doesn't matter. Can you get to the root cause and remove barriers around what happened before, or, you know, and get people opening up around what it could like in the future, and then asking them the question, do they feel like what you have will get them there, or get them there quicker? So really, you know, being specific around it, building up that why. And if you can uncover somebody's why, you're onto a winner. And at the very least, you'll build a stronger relationship, because you'll always have that rapport to go to. You know, you'll always have that thing in common that you can talk about that'll help that relationship along. So, guys, hopefully that was helpful today. I cannot believe that's 30 minutes already, and that has gone so fast.
Yeah.
It's literally gone so quick. But don't forget, guys, you know, as we mentioned, that every week, month, fortnight, however frequently we're going to be doing the Training Tuesdays, we're going to be here to share information. But please make sure that you go into the Academy if you're part of it. Listen to this again, like, share, subscribe. And Chris, you just want to remind people of the end of financial year as well, for those watching, what's going on?
Yep, so we've got the end of financial year sale, a crazy 50% off. So jump on the website if you haven't already. And obviously on Monday, the 14-day Swish sales challenge will start, 14 consecutive days with CEO Ryan. That is just not to be missed. So if you're inside or not, please join that. Next week, we're going to be running through the sales process and the importance of that. So a kind of overview of our 10-step process to creating a client for life. But as normal, thank you for taking 30 minutes out of your busy day to listen to myself and Rob, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an absolute pleasure, everyone, to share this training with you. So go out there and strike up conversations with complete strangers, and let us know how it goes. I want to hear some positive reports. We'll do it as well. But yeah, thank you, everyone. Really appreciate your time, and yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Awesome. Have a good evening.
See you all. Bye.
See ya.